Happy Thursday. Welcome into a new episode of PTN Extra. That's Mike Irwin. I'm Evan Camico. Mike, we've got a lot to talk about the bye weeks here. We got some coaching search updates. We'll get into that a lot later in the show. But everyone right now, I think, is turning their attention finally towards John Calipari, Arkansas men's basketball, and Kelsey Musick and Arkansas women's basketball. The winter's here. It's coming. It's getting colder in Northwest Arkansas. Basketball season's officially here. Let's talk about it. Monday night, the opener against Southern Arkansas absolutely dominates that game. I didn't watch too much of it because I have YouTube TV. I know you switched to Hulu, so you're actually good right now. You were able to watch the game. Hogs take down Southern 109-77. What's your initial thoughts about the way that Arkansas opened the season this year?
Good. You have these two freshmen that continue to dominate, and that's pretty unusual. Cal even said at one point, even though I think he was half joking, you know, at some point they need to realize they've got teammates and let them be involved too. But when you're doing what, you know, Darius Acuff Jr. is doing and Malik Thomas, I mean, there's not much to complain about. I think the only issue is can they keep it up? Because they really now, through two exhibition games and one regular season game, the season opener, it's pretty clear that they're depending a lot on these two guys. So now you go on the road, and this isn't maybe the first road test because I think Memphis was, in fact, a road game. It won't be the road test this game is because now you're not going to have hardly any Razorback fans there. And the Breslin Center is like, Darius Acuff grew up 45 miles away from there. He's played in there. In high school, won a state championship as a sophomore. And he's going to have a lot of friends there. But he said, I don't think my teammates realize this. So I had to tell them, this place is going to be packed. It's 15,000. They're crazy. They're going to be coming down on us. So this will be a true test. And I think Cal's doing this on purpose. I think he wants his players to see what a true SEC road atmosphere is like, and that's what this is going to be. It's going to be like, you know, going to Florida or going to Georgia or going to Auburn or Tennessee or someplace like that.
Absolutely, and we'll get into Breslin Center and all of that in a little bit because I've got some things to say. It's one of my favorite arenas in the country to watch college basketball, but when we go to this Southern win, you mentioned the freshmen. They put up, I believe, Acuff had 22, Malik Thomas had 21. The ability to get in the lane, I believe 80 lane touches was really good, 23 team assists for this Arkansas team. So the basketball was moving. It was flying everywhere. The guys were getting downhill, which was really impressive and good to see. Again, Southern, picked to be top of their conference, but not kind of to the likes of what Michigan State's going to be this weekend. But what caught my eye, Trevin Brazile, 25 points, 11 rebounds, a double-double. We've been talking about this guy all summer saying he's going to be really good. We think he's going to take that step forward. Game one showed that everything that was going on over the summer is now translated here to the season.
Yeah, he's off to a good start too, and they need him to do that. But this game, Michigan State's going to be physical. In fact, I guess it was Tom Izzo that joked in telling Cal, he said, I'm going to have my guys put on football helmets when we prepare for this game because it's going to be that physical. So you have to be able to respond to that. And I think it's going to take more, you know, than just Trevin Brazile. I really think Nick Pringle's going to, and he stepped up a little bit more. He'd been in foul trouble in those two exhibition games. He was more of a factor in the Southern game. And then Malik Ewan, I think what we're seeing from him is he can score, but I like the way he dishes the assists. I mean, he's dishing off to guards. He's dishing off to Brazile. When you got a guy that big, and look, what he can do is he's got a guy on him. He can dribble outside and then turn around and dish inside to a guard who's suddenly one-on-one with somebody smaller than him because Arkansas's guards are big, and then all of a sudden you're a guard, you're a 6'4", 6'5" guard, but you're not going up against a 6'9", 6'8", 6'9" guy, just another 6'4", 6'5" guy.
And how about Isaiah Seeley, too, getting in that game, getting 12 points, double-digit in points scored. Nice to see the Springdale native get going a little bit, maybe get his footing. Obviously, Arkansas without Carter Knox wasn't really a massive deal against Southern, but it might be against a team like Michigan State who has a lot of experience. 8, I believe, of the 11 guys that they played a couple days ago are all guys who are grown up in that system, either freshmen or started with Izzo. Not transfers. You don't see that from Tom Izzo very much. Again, we'll get there in just a second, but to wrap on Southern, DJ Wagner, he got going a little bit late in the game, and we saw that in the exhibition. And same with Billy. Some of the returners struggled, especially those two guys. I guess those are 2 of the 4 returners right there. What would you like to see from them? Billy got in foul trouble, 5 fouls in that game from DJ as well as from Billy in this game this weekend.
Well, I think DJ's got to got to do more. You can't leave this all to Acuff. You just can't. Every game, no way. Now, Acuff's going to be going up against this Jeremy Fears, who's a sophomore for Michigan State, and he scored 14 points in that game against Colgate, which they won by 11 points, but he had 10 assists and 5 steals. So this guy can play.
Yeah.
And I don't think you want to deal with – I think you want to use both of your point guards on somebody like that. Force him to go to the bench some because you're wearing him out a little bit with keeping your guys fresh. So I think Wagner needs to do more. I think it's a good thing that that you won without somebody that was important as the injured player in this game for the Razorbacks, Carter Knox. But I really think Billy Richmond will come on. He was inconsistent a little bit last year. He just needs time to get going. He'll be fine.
And this, to me, feels like the game that Billy Richmond would be going. As we look ahead to Michigan State, you mentioned they beat Colgate by 11. 80-69 was the final score of that game. For me, Breslin Center is such a unique atmosphere in college basketball, and it does something that a lot of modern-day college basketball courts do. It's something Bud Walton does not do. The fans are basically sitting around the bowl. They're right on top of you. You can feel the Michigan State fans in the green and white when you're in there, when you're on the court. I shot a game a couple of years ago there between Indiana and Michigan State, and it's just such a hard place to play because of the fan atmosphere. It's a little more intimate. I believe it holds about 15,000, so 14,797 to be exact as I look at this ESPN stat. So it's intimate. You have the fans on top of you, but you can really feel the green and white when you're there. And I think Billy, to the point, is the perfect guy to get this Arkansas team going because he can feed off that energy. I asked Darius Acuff this morning, how important is it going to be to kind of silence that crowd? You alluded to it a bit before, and it is important because they're walking into arguably a top 3 atmosphere in the Big Ten, whether it's that, Assembly Hall in Indiana, or Mackey Stadium, Mackey Arena, where Purdue plays. So it's going to be really important to strike early, but if they can't, Billy Richmond could be the guy to get going and to silence that crowd and play the role of the villain.
Yeah, and I think Acuff took kind of a subtle shot at Arkansas fans. Now, he clearly has not been here if a team like Michigan State was coming in, which they will next year. And so when you get a ranked team to come in here in November or December, it's a totally different deal. But his only experience right now is the one exhibition game and then the season opener, and there were lots of empty seats. And that's when you hear about Arkansas, I think these fans come in here and they're a little bit disappointed, the players are, because they know it's Cal. They've been told Arkansas has a great basketball history, but Razorback fans do not do well in November and December games. That a lot of them just decide to stay home if it's not a named team. So at Southern University, they're sitting there going, man, I'm not going to get in a car and drive all the way down the arena and wait in traffic and then have to do that at the end of the game. And then a lot of them leave early too, especially if it's a blowout. If you didn't know any better and you just came into Bud Walton during a typical November, December, you'd think, man, these fans stink. Now, it totally changes when SEC play comes along. So I think he's going to see the atmosphere, but what he said was, what Darius Acuff said, talking about the Breslin Center, he said, they actually show up and fill this place up. They will actually come after us, And I think it was just kind of like, what you've seen so far here, that's not going to happen there.
Just wait till Louisville comes to town in a couple of weeks for the SEC ACC showdown, which is going to be a very fun atmosphere, a great game with Pat Kelsey. But we're not talking about that. That's way down the line. We'll get there, in a couple of weeks. But what's going to be key for this game for me is the bigs, right? You've got Jackson Kohler and Cohen Carr, the combination for Michigan State. Kohler led the Spartans in scoring 16 points. He had 15 rebounds. Physicality is going to be really important. What I think differs Big Ten basketball versus SEC basketball is that physicality. These guys in the Big Ten, they play a little dirty. They play push-you ball. I've watched Zach Edey the last couple of years. All he does is back people down, back people down, back people down, and it's the same what Sparty does. But they're able to kick the ball outside and find some of these really good guards like Jeremy Fears Jr. to knock down a three. They shot 28% in that first game. But the combination of Kohler and Carr, slowing those guys down inside, really big game for, like we mentioned, Nick Pringle and Malik Ewan.
Well, Pringle's going to have to stay out of foul trouble because if it's a physical game, we know he's physical, but he has to play physical without fouling.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a real key because he, like I said, in the two exhibition games, he was in foul trouble the whole time, and he's not very effective. Looked a lot better when he didn't get in foul trouble in the season opener. So, it's one of the things we're going to have to see. But again, I think what Cal is doing, and I think he and Izzo, they're friends, they got together, and I think each of them thought that the other team would help them teach their players some things off of this game, regardless of who wins and loses. I think both coaches are going to be able to take the video of this game and say, okay, look what you did here. You need to do that. Here's a problem here. And hopefully, Izzo will be doing more than that than Cal will.
Absolutely. I know, before we go to a quick break, I know that we're still in kind of the learning phase of the season, but how much is this going to be a measuring stick right now, especially in this first quarter, the first month that we're in for this Arkansas team to, like we mentioned, get the fans to show up for Louisville, get them to travel to Chicago, to Dallas, to New York City in the next couple of weeks?
Well, it's important because we all know what happened last year. And so what I think the fans want to see is this isn't last year. They're not going to get in trouble just because they're playing a tough schedule. Now, I don't think anybody expects them to win all these games, but don't run into the problems you ran into last year. And it happened really before. I mean, their record wasn't bad, but you could see some things in November and December that were later kind of a foreshadowing of what was going to go on in SEC play.
Absolutely. The good news is they pulled themselves out of it last year. The good news this year, it's only game 2. There's a lot of time to come. But coming up on PTN Extra, we talk about the other team that calls Bud Walton Arena home, Kelsey Musick, and the women's team got a big win on Tuesday night. We'll break that down. That's next. Stick around. We'll be right back after the break. Back here on PTN Extra on this Thursday afternoon. I'm Evan Kamiko. That's Mike Irwin. Thanks for hanging out with us. Whether you're watching on 479 First YouTube or our website, as always, we can't thank you enough for hanging out with us. Like I already mentioned, Mike, let's talk about the Arkansas women's team, right? A lot of questions surrounding Kelsey Musick. What was 2025, 2026 going to look like? And quite frankly, through the first about 7 minutes, I was sitting there shooting the game like, oh boy, this team is in some trouble. They find themselves down 17-2 with about 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. And then the rally starts, and this team fought and came all the way back. La Tech was picked to finish first in Conference USA. They were picked to be really, really good this year. But to show the fight when you're down and you kind of get punched in the face, I guess that's like your welcome to Arkansas moment if you're Coach Musick, being able to go down 17-2, come back, rally, and win the game. What impressed you about the debut of Kelsey Musick as the women's head coach?
Well, they're more physical than they were a year ago. There's more inside scoring. Now, look, they missed a bunch of layups. I'm not sure I've seen that many missed layups, but they kept rebounding it. Sometimes it was like volleyball. Miss, grab it back, miss, grab it back, miss, grab it back, finally score. But I did like the way they were physical inside, but then they had good outside shooting too, but they didn't rely too much on that. That was a close game. They took I think they were behind a little bit at the half. I can't remember, but they took the lead early in the second half and pretty much had it the rest of the way. Maybe the game was tied once. Maybe they were a point or two behind once. But they pretty much had them around a 6-point lead most of the second half. In the last few minutes, they opened it up to double digits, and they really just came on strong. And I think she was very happy about that. Hunter Yurchek came out and hugged her, and it was all, and she was, she put stuff on the internet about our first win and all that. The thing I look at, and I'm just more practical, how does this compare with Mike Neighbors last year? Has she improved the program? And it looks like it's better. I'm not saying, because once you get into the SEC, it's going to be tougher. But it looks like it's a little better. They're more physical. What I didn't like about last year was last year's team was just too weak inside. If they weren't hitting their outside shots, they were dead. So I like the way this team shoots from the outside, but I like the fact that they're a little bigger, more physical, and they will battle for rebounds and try to score inside.
42.9% from behind the arc. When you started as bad as you did to finish with that number, it's really impressive. They were shooting like 16% through the first quarter, and then they ultimately ended up finishing 44.6%. And it was kind of fun to watch, and you had some of these new faces, the ORU carryovers like Emily Robinson and Talia Jones. They really started to get this Arkansas team going. And then Bonnie Dees, the freshman from Down Under, she put on a show in the second half, 25 points, only about 3 offensive rebounds, 2 defensive rebounds, so 5 total rebounds. But she was electric. The 2 ORU guys were electric. And I really liked Ashlyn Clarson. That's going to be a really tough name, C-H-L-A-R, not Carlson, Clarson. She played really well, 20 minutes, 11 points, 11 rebounds as well. So a double-double for her in her Arkansas debut. Believe comes from a small school in Arizona, D2, so really fun to see. But like you mentioned, they needed the size. And what I found interesting is of the Mike Neighbors players still left, you saw a lot of Jenna Lawrence. which I wouldn't even say a lot, 14 minutes, relatively a lot. But other than that, Marin Archer got the start. She played about 8 minutes. Christina Sanchez-Cerqueira played 8 minutes. Jada Bates, 13 minutes. So there was some carryover from the Mike Neighbors era, but some of the bigs that you saw last year, like Christina Sanchez-Cerqueira, as well as Danica Kaleo, you didn't see them in this game. So it was, I wouldn't say fresh to see some new faces, but when we knew the struggles that Mike Neighbors had last year with his roster, to see the new players come in and make immediate impacts, that's something good to see.
Well, the thing I look for is, because I always look ahead. Players can't do that. I can.
Yeah.
You know, what I want to see is how quickly they bring fans back into the arena, because the crowd had really dropped off the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, if you go all the way back to Gary Blair, they were drawing 6,000 and 7,000 on a regular basis, sometimes over 10,000 for a big game. So I don't think I'm expecting that, but not crowds of 500 and 600, which is what it had dropped to. And I don't know what it was in that game, but it looked like to me it was a few hundred.
Yeah, about 2,111
yeah,
per
they
ESPN.
say that. They say that.
Probably, so let's lowball it, 1,500.
Yeah, it may have been lower than that.
Probably lower.
Some of the people that were there, I'm on Facebook with them, and they
Yeah.
said it was maybe 1,000 at the most, several hundred or whatever. Okay, can you get that up to 2,000, 3,000? Now they're going to have this high school thing coming up, where you get all these elementary school things where the kids get out during the day. It's usually an 11 o'clock game, something like that, and they fill that place pretty much. I mean, it's got 8,000 in there, 9,000. It's going to be interesting to see how that motivates them, because it's always fun to play in front of a bigger crowd.
Yeah, and again, getting the fan base to, like you said, come out week in and week out and support this team. That's the goal of year one. Set the culture, set the foundation, and get the trust back in that Razorback fan base. But Mike, we've hit yet another break. When we come back, we go to the gridiron. Some interesting updates coming up in the world of Arkansas football, especially with the coaching search looming. 3 games left to go this season. We'll break it all down. That's going to be next on PTN Extra. Back here in our PTN studios, that's Mike Irwin. I'm Evan Kamiko, wrapping up shop this Thursday on PTN Extra. Mike, let's talk about football and the updates. Obviously, last week did not go to plan. Mississippi State in town. You don't win that game. That felt like the game if Bobby Petrino was going to get the head coaching job he needed. They don't get it. So now it feels like eyeballs are going to start turning elsewhere. Maybe that was probably the last straw for Coach Petrino. What have you heard about the coaching search and the coaching front of what could be next for this Razorback program and who's going to lead it?
I think the best thing I heard was yesterday. I talked to somebody I know, a source, and he said, look, the people that are doing this search are throwing up so much smoke right now. He said, you don't believe anything for sure, because something may look like one thing, it's something else. And he used it as an example. There are people that say Hunter Yurachek, if he needed to raise, and I talked about this last week, he supposedly had a meeting with 6 or 7 big donors and was trying to raise $30 million, and if he did that, he could keep the job. That's one of the things I was told. Now I'm told, well, yeah, that may be true, but they may be throwing that out as a smokescreen too. You just don't know what to believe. Here's what I was basically told. They've know who they've come to terms, or money terms, with the guy they want. I don't know who it is, but they've done it. That's what's being said, and they have the money, and they're going to hold off on this until the Missouri game. And then the week of the Missouri game, it'll give whoever this coach is a week to come in and watch a game and be around the players and be around the coaches. That may be true. It may be a smokescreen. I don't know. James Franklin's name is out there. He still hasn't been snapped up by anybody else. Some people say it's him. They got the money. He got a whole bunch of big bucks offers from Virginia Tech. They came up and gave him enough where he was willing to accept this. So it's him. All over the internet today, they're talking about Silverman at Memphis. Silverfield. I call him Silversmith, anything Silver. There's a national college website with 300,000 viewers on there, and they're saying it was him, and then Gus Malzahn was number 2. I consider that a smokescreen. I was also told by somebody that this is a smokescreen. Don't fall for this. And the tweet that was on there was that he had gotten his players together and had told them, I'm leaving. Well, come on. If he told his players, it wouldn't just be on one website, it'd be all over the place. So I don't believe that right now. my advice to fans right now is don't believe anything anybody tells you that you read on the internet, anybody like me tells you, because what I tell you could be wrong. And I don't believe it. I'm just saying I got to pass on what I've heard.
Yeah.
But I'm very cautious about believing it.
So basically, watch the show, but everything we say during the show, don't listen to, don't take to heart. Take it with a grain of salt, people at home. Don't come after us on the comments. We know you do, because, Mike Irwin said one thing or Evan said the other thing. Take everything we say with a grain of salt. We don't know anything. That's the fun time of this coaching search and why it's so interesting. But to me, right, like it's great that we're hearing all this, but I think it comes down to with coaching searches, especially when you look broad across college football, and if that's the route Arkansas is going to go and try to go after James Franklin, who it seems like it's Virginia Tech or Arkansas. He doesn't want LSU. He doesn't want Florida. He doesn't want Auburn. If you're going to go that route, I think Silverfield's probably your best bet if you don't get James Franklin or Alex Golish. But the question is, does Arkansas act early or do they wait? Because it feels like the college football world is kind of waiting on Lane Kiffin right now to figure out whether he's going to stay at Ole Miss or leave for Florida and LSU. Yeah.
And there's a rumor that I think if Memphis beats Tulane, that rules out,
John Summerall.
Summerall.
Yeah.
And then there's also a game tonight involving Jeff Traylor. Now, I don't think Traylor's in the mix, but UNLV, UT San Antonio.
Yeah.
Those guys came up with a big upset win last week, and didn't they beat Golich? Who did they beat?
Yeah, they beat Summerall. I believe they beat Tulane.
They beat Tulane. So in that league, there's about a 6-way tie for first place. Guess who is in the head coach of one of those teams? It is a guy with the last name of Morris. But a lot of yo-yos on the internet have looked at that and said, we don't want this guy because of his last name. And I'm thinking, are you crazy?
Yeah.
I will continue to say this. If you look at the background of all of these coaches, you couldn't come up with a better fit for Arkansas, because this guy takes 2-star players and turns them into 4 stars. He's done it everywhere he's been. He discovered Patrick Mahomes. He's sent NFL guys to the NFL, first-round draft choices. But he doesn't just do this with quarterbacks. He does this with all of his players. I think you found some video, or somebody did, maybe it was Trey Dare, where they mic'd this guy up in practice. He was incredible. Now, he was a 5'7" wide receiver for Mike Leach at Texas Tech. He's out there running pass routes with his players.
Yeah.
Now, think about this. Just think about this. You would go from Sam Pittman, who had to ride around in a golf cart and can barely walk at practice, to having a guy that can run pass routes with his wide receivers. There are a lot of people saying we need a younger, more energetic coach. Forget all these big names. Go get a guy that's been a winner everywhere he's ever been. Well, this guy is that. But what I'm told is the committee is worried about his name. And now that could be a smokescreen.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that could be a smokescreen. They don't want you to know they're looking at him. But Oklahoma State is looking at him big. And here's what I don't want to see. They come over here in 2 years. I don't want to see them hire Morris and Arkansas hire somebody like Franklin. And then in 2 years, he comes back in here and beats Arkansas.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a very good look. You've got to get this hire right. It just feels like now is the time where if you want to get the Razorback fan base back in it, you've got to make the right hire. You got to get the people at home, the people who watch this program, excited for this program in 2026. Mike Irwin, really quickly before we go, we're running out of time. Big news in the world of Arkansas track and field. Chris Bucknam announced his retirement. Just when you put his career into perspective, what he's been able to do, it just goes out on a great note. What do you make of Buck's retirement?
Well, I'm surprised. I didn't know he had reached that point, but he's been successful, won national championships. He's not John McDonald. He had one of the toughest jobs in America. How do you replace a guy that's won, 40 national championships or however many John won? How do you do that? And because you're going to get compared to him. But he kept that job all that time. And he had the program going. It was a diverse program. It wasn't just, sprinters or distance guys or this or that. They had field events people. And now he hands the job off to his longtime assistant. I do think it's interesting that they did the same thing they did when Lance Harder retired. They let the number 2 guy take the job.
Yeah.
And a lot of schools, they won't do that. They'll still go on a job search and look, because there are former Razorbacks that are out there as head track coaches at other schools that want this job, but they didn't look at them.
Yeah.
And some people are not happy about that, but I understand why they did what they did.
Doug Case, the man in charge. That's going to do it for PTN Extra this week. Thank you all for tuning in. For Mike Irwin, our amazing production crew, I'm Evan Kamikos. So we'll see you back here next Wednesday. Sweet. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's fine.